Okay, I'm going to call this meeting of the Planning Commission for June 3rd, 2025 to order at 7:05 p.m. All right, we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alrighty, roll call. Mr. Marvel. Here. Mr. Marty is excused for tonight, and so is Miss Shandell. Miss Rose.
Here.
And Mr. Nixon is here as well. All right. We have Miss Darla, our city manager, Mr. Moore, our planner, and Miss Carrie will be filling in for Becca tonight as our clerk. We need a motion to approve the minutes from May 13th, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Seconded. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right. Okay, so oh, there it is. Approval of tonight's agenda. Do we have
the agenda for tonight?
I will second that. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, we are to public comments. Sorry. Those citizens wishing to speak on agenda and non-agenda items will be allowed a maximum of 4 minutes each to address their concerns. This is the only time during the meeting that citizens are allowed to address the Planning Commission. Please state your name and address if you would like. Right up there at the podium.
So I would say this would be for everything except for the public hearing on the proposed Sand Lake Land Company subdivision. We have a specific notice public hearing for that. So any public comment that anybody wants to make with respect to that development, we would hear at the next agenda item. So if there's any comments on anything else, now would be the time.
Ms. Carey, is there anybody online? All right. So seeing none, I'm going to close public comments. Conflicts of interest and ex parte communication. Anybody?
Not I.
All right. We will close that. And we will be on to our scheduled public hearings for tonight. And that is the Sand Lake Land Company site condominium. Mr. Moore, do I turn it over to you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what is being proposed here? And I think you're all familiar with this site. This is at the east end of Ash Street, east of Ann Street within the city. Sand Lake Land Company has submitted an application to construct a residential site condominium development. I think we talked a little bit about this at the last meeting. So just for yours and everybody else's edification, a site condominium looks and feels and functions similar to a typical single family subdivision. So the word condominium gets used. A lot of times people think, oh, we're going to have multi-story attached, dense residential. That's not what this is. What they are proposing is to construct 7 single-family homes on 3.09 acres of land. I think 3 of them would be on the north side of Ash Street, which would be extended slightly to the east, and then 4 of those site condominium units would be on the south side of Ash Street. The narrative from the applicant states that they would intend to have single-family homes with public water and sewer provided to them. Stormwater would be collected and piped into a basin on the north side of the building envelope for Unit 1 that's labeled on the site plan. If the applicant is here, it looks like there's somebody here. It would be appropriate, Mr. Chairman, to have him provide some comments as well and answer any questions the planning commission may have. The brief overview, that's where we're at. I think after the applicant provides some comments and we hear from the public, I can provide further comments about our thoughts on the development and what the overall process is that you're looking at tonight. It's a pretty simple process, but we want to make sure that everyone's clear. So if the applicant wants to make any comments, I think now would be a good time.
Is there anyone here who is representing that? Yeah. All right, please stand up. State your name.
So I'm Nate Wall, a member of Sand Lake Land Company. So Sand Lake Land Company is not some big corporation. It's myself, my dad, and my sister. We're also the 3 principals of Dean's Excavating. So kind of one and the same, a little confusing. A little history on this property. This property was actually purchased as part of we purchased it at the time we were doing Cherry Street, Park Street, Ash Street as part of a construction project. It was a staging area. It was the property had been in foreclosure. We bought it with no intention, really at that point in time, but to use it for the project and leave. We have used it, put some fill in there. The site needed fill for development. That's taken place the last few years. We haven't hauled in there actually in a couple years, but over a period of time. At a point in time, the city approached us. Actually, I think that it was a previous city manager. There was a need for a well. The city needed another well. That property fit, the backside of that property fit some of that description. So over almost a 3-year process, the city actually purchased part of that property. There is a well. It actually just went online a few months ago, finally went online. So the construction that had been going on there just for the residents over the last 1.5 years was to do with the well project, was to do with the well. That well tied into your system. It turned out to be a pretty good deal. There was some property, some wetland property on the northerly side of this, north and west, that we actually donated to the city. It ties into the city park there. Again, that was a process that was started actually not long after we purchased it, and finally we made it come together with the purchase of the property. So that left us with a little piece up front on the westerly portion of it. That's why we're here. We were in front of the Planning Commission a year ago. It's part of the well process for the Eagle permit for the well. All of the earth change within, and I don't remember, don't totally quote me, maybe 1,200 feet of that well. It had to be done. It had to be set. So we had went to the Planning Commission and said, hey, conceptually, what's this look like? So we actually had to shape it then. Eagle reviewed so they could you guys could get your permit and you're good to hook. So we've it's been a long process for us, even though for some of you it might be the first take on it. It's been a ongoing thing. As you pointed out, it's a condominium. Sounds like it's not apartments or condos going in there. It's R1 single family homes is what would go in there. We're not partnered with a developer or builder. These lots will be for sale once completed, if approved. They'd be open to the public to buy, to build a home. Any questions for me from? The street would become a public street, maybe a little different than some other developments that have been built recently, and that's because the city's well is on the back side of it, so you have access issues there. It's the most straightforward way is to build it actually to your guys' specs, so it's a public road at that point. Good, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, at this point in time, I think you could open the floor to public comments. I think the general rule for the city is is it 3 minutes for public comment per person, I believe. But yeah, so I think we can do that. Open the floor for public comment. So make sure you open up the public hearing once everyone has had a chance to speak, close the public hearing, and then if you want to turn it back over to me after that, I think that would be great.
Okay, we can do that. All right, I'm going to open public comments on the public hearing tonight from Sand Lake Land Company. If there is any persons wishing to make a comment, please step up to the podium. Please state your name and address.
My name is Mary Branson. My address is 355 East Beach. I back up to this property. We were able to find some information from Fishbeck and from Williams and Works that may or may not have answered all of our questions. I guess we're concerned as neighbors all along that side and the other part of Ash Street on whether or not these are going to be owner occupied when they're there, or they're going to be available for rentals. Are they short-term, long-term, and that type of thing. We're also concerned with the water runoff to the south of that. I think one of the engineer's reports said that there's a basin behind unit number 1, which is on the north side. But what happens to the water that's running to the south once you add 7 units with roof lines and the roadway and that type of stuff? Who is going to maintain the vacant properties, I guess, would be another major question. Is once it's all there, the road's in, and is it just gonna be like tall grass? Is it gonna be maintained, or who does that? And I think the big question that we would have is, are you going to impose a time frame on the completion of this project if approved? On building the units, is it going to be 1 year? Is it going to be 10 years? I think Mr. Wall said they're going to be sold as individual land. That could go on forever. But I believe once the road's in, then the project is at a completion. I'm concerned about raising the road even more with all the noise and all of the other things that are going on and that type of stuff for several years. We never know what is happening and that type of thing. So, but I think our answer to who maintains the road was answered, that if it's turned over to the city as a public street, they're going to maintain it. The other question would be lighting. Is it a street light that's on a small pole, or is it up high above? How is that going to affect everyone around there? Those are some of the concerns that I would have. The wetlands that were there, where are they going? So.
Thank you.
I could use it address.
I would prefer to gather all of the public comments first, and then at the end, if you want to respond or offer any clarification, I think that would be better. Thank you for asking, though.
Anyone else?
My name is Bruce Talkman. I live at 319 East Ash Street. Currently the end of Ash Street, so to speak. As Shel Silverstein would say, where the sidewalk ends. Got 3 concerns. Water collection in a pond, if you will, behind Unit 1 on the north side, right? Is Unit 1 at the east end or the west end?
US.
West end? Okay. Not what I was hoping to hear, but nonetheless. Okay, and then also in the Fishbeck thing, site grading. There's a statement that says the proposed roadway grade is higher than the existing grade to allow depth of cover for the sanitary sewer and positive drainage to the west. Are they one and the same? Are you talking the sewer drainage or sewer and runoff? Two different things? Okay, oh, the west, I guess that'd be me. And then, under public roadway, the developer is also replacing a portion of existing Ash Street east of Ann. There's being done to raise the grade slightly where the new road is connected. This roadway replacement will include the replacement of an existing driveway on the north side that serves the residents. That'd be me. So, I guess I wonder what that would amount to, obviously. And that's the extent of my concerns as far as I can see in this. I beg your pardon?
You said?
It's Tacoma. You were reading it and say Tacoma. Like the Toyota truck.
Yeah, what? I completely zoned out. What was the last thing you said there? The last.
Something about. In the engineering study, if that's what you call this, the correspondence here from Fishbeck. Include the replacement of an existing driveway on the north side that serves the residents. Residents. CE as opposed to TS. In my case, the TS would also apply. Oh, that was three things that I'm concerned. Thank you.
My name's Tony Norcus. I live at 357 East Beach. I'm Mary's neighbor. I'm the person whose property actually juts out into the development that you're planning. My land borders the city land that was purchased for the pump house. So there is that whole area was a meadow. It was a drainage area, that whole field. In fact, when the county drain commissioner had us pay an assessment when they upgraded the Cherry Street, and I had to pay extra because I owned that extra land because that's supposed to drain to the creek. Now, since the Sand Lake Land Company has purchased that since 2016 or so, it was been continually used to change the topography of that land. It's no longer near the original height. If you go look at the north side of your pump house, there's about a 10, 12-foot drop down to the original depth of that field. And on the south side, where my property borders, they have contoured it so it's not as dramatic, but it's still probably 3 or 4 feet from the original depth. So there's a drainage easement on the east side of my property. When that rain comes off Beach Street, it goes down through there like a river. And in the past, it used to filter out into that meadow and make its way to the aquifer to Cedar Creek. Well, now we've got a 10-foot elevation or higher right in the middle of that field. And I noticed that my property holds water a lot longer. It puddles. It can't find its way out fast enough. So has anybody in all the years that property has been held and used for dumping and whatever of all kinds of materials and dirt over the last 7, 8 years, has anybody ever demanded a study on drain water and the drainage of that area? Are you demanding this before you approve this site? That's what I'm asking, is that, it just seems like it's been a free-for-all back there. And the whole topography is totally different. And the water's got to go somewhere. And I just don't know if anybody's done anything about it or concerned about it. Didn't seem to be the last 7, 8 years. It's just kind of do what you want back there. So those are my big concerns. In fact, I wrote a letter to the former city manager in 2017 complaining about that this was being used as commercial property, even though it was zoned residential, because it was being used for dumping and storage. And 3/4 of each year for 5 or 6 years, there were trucks going in and out, dumping and moving dirt all over the place, but nothing was done. So thank you.
My name is Tim Smith. I live at 352 East Beach Street, so across the street from where all this is happening. I guess the main thing that I would just say is, I looked at the packet for this meeting, and included in the packet is a proposed motion to accept this deal. And so, like a lot of these things, and like you just heard, sometimes these things feel an awful lot like it's already decided. And, you know, like my neighbor just said, no one sent us a postcard to say, hey, we're gonna turn this wetland into constant semi-truck sized dump trucks going in and out of it all the time. I would say also, different times that I've complained, it's been, rate of speed of these trucks, what they're doing to city streets that aren't even allowed to have large delivery vehicles on them, let alone many, many yards of gravel and dirt and everything else. And so, I think that my biggest concern is, has this been thought out all the way? And, obviously, whatever you want to call weather changes, they are happening. And so we get a lot more water at one time, often, from rain and other things. And so again, this has been built up over years to a much larger height, and where's it all going to go? And if there's going to be a pond, is it going to be fenced in? There's kids walking through there all the time, as it is, let alone once it's residential, and things of that nature. Now, understood that projects like these are super complicated, and so maybe there's things to know that we just don't know, but it'd be helpful maybe during the presentation or at a later time, if we could know, a little bit more, like even what are these things going to look like? What kind of condos are they? Is it, with it being different builders, are they all going to be similar? Are there any standards that they have to meet? Are they going to just be whatever? Things like that. So little communication is all I'm asking for, and appreciate you listening.
Good evening. My name's Blaine Cron, and Darcy and I are here, and we live at 5253 17 Mile. And our property is adjacent. We have 58 acres. Part of our property was annexed in a couple years after we bought it to the city. And there's always been water issues with this property. I'm pretty familiar with it, as you pointed out. And one of my concerns is, we were assessed and we have to pay $50,000. We don't live in the city, but now we have to pay $50,000 because the drain commissioner feels that we benefit from the water running off our property into the city property. And when we did inquire about that, they basically said the drain commissioner can assess anybody in Kent County they feel benefits from the property. I know that things, changed throughout the years, and I have noticed we have apple trees that have been there we've owned the property for like 22 years, and they've been there for a lot longer than that. And I do notice now that it has a tendency to have a lot more water on the property in that whole area to the east of there. And that area floods quite a bit. My father is retired from the DNR, so he's been down to my property quite a bit, and I've had him look at the property, and he just thought that was a little unusual for, as things change. As they pointed out, there is a natural drain that goes through that property that goes to the creek. And some reason that seems to be hindered right now. So that's one of my questions is, is this going to be flowing off of my property? Am I going to get further assessments? And I guess, is there going to be any restrictions? Like, can someone put a manufactured home on this property? Is there going to be any type of restrictions for what can go on this property? Because I would think that the adjacent neighbors would have a concern with their property values if there's mobile homes or double wides, or if, because in this area does have pretty nice homes right now. So that would be another concern. but that's, those are my concerns right now. And I didn't know if there was any type of a print that the neighbors could see. Here's what it's gonna look like. Maybe that would be helpful to, uh, I'm a visual guy to see what actually is gonna, happen and where the water's gonna go. I think it sounds like you got the sewer handled, but I think the runoff water has always been the issue with this particular parcel. So that's my concern. You have a question?
Thing.
That's all I have to say.
Hi, I'm Beth Potter and I live at 351 East Beach. And I guess one of the, well, I have two main things. One, yeah, I guess my question at this point in time, what's going to happen if the water starts backing up into our yards? Over the years, I've lived in my house not quite 40 years, but there have been times over the years where I would say to my kids, you can't go out back without boots on or something because it was so wet out there. And many years ago, a man named Todd Klinsky was going to develop that property. And there was a survey done and it was considered a wetland. And I had talked to some people at the DEQ and, what's available, what's going to happen. So Mr. Klinsky was told by the city that he had to put in a $100,000 lift station because it was low. And then, now I'm thinking, what has changed? We don't have a lift station. Now there's a lot more dirt. We really weren't welcome to talk to the former city manager. He was not very interested in what we had to say. And I think, I don't know if I'm wrong. I feel like there were a lot of people that felt like the done deal. We weren't able to really express our concerns, questions. Even today, this information that came from the packet that Tim found online, why didn't we get this from the city? Why aren't we seeing what it's going to look like in our backyard? What's, Takamas wouldn't have known that their driveway is going to get ripped up and the end of the road is going to all, we like to see it. And so if we have any information that might help the situation turn out better, we don't want mistakes and have everybody in the area pay for it because, I still have a copy of the survey done several years ago. And it definitely was wetland and apparently it's not anymore. So what happened to that? Thank you.
Anybody else from? Okay, seeing none. Miss Carrie, is there anybody online? Okay, I'm going to ask that you come up, and I hope you were taking notes. Because there was a lot of concerns, and if you're able to help with some of those concerns.
Bye, man. Thank you all for coming. We listen very clearly. You're very important. You're our neighbors. Just a couple comments I thought of is you need to understand that all that dirt came from your town. It was all your projects to improve your town. That's where the dirt came from. So what?
Your name for the record.
I apologize. Dean Wall. I live at 16905 Shaner Avenue, Sand Lake. Thank you. So I just wanted to make sure you understood that that's where it came from. I want you to know that we had an excess of 40-some thousand dollars on our property also. So we're in the same boat as you, that we paid that.
And I'm pretty sure that Nate will be able to address, I'll let him address specifics, because everything I heard, I think we have an answer for it. If not, we'd like to hear about it. Thank you.
Yeah, good. You guys filled up my page, but they're good questions in all seriousness. I think they are. So what we're missing is the site plan. I don't have a piece of cardboard. And you guys are welcome to pass it around. Can you see decent enough? So this easterly portion, that's the city's property, okay? So this, from here this way, the bulk of the fill is actually on the city's property. That fill was needed for the well, because we had to be a certain amount, because this overall view, this is wetlands here. Wetlands, I believe, continue on to here if you look at the overall map. So this needed to be elevated for the well. This is all now the city's property. So we're not talking about anything from here this way is the city's. And I can't speak to anything there. It was done to an engineered site plan. So overall, the retention pond is here. It's very small. It is a drain. You guys can't see. I'm sorry. Yeah. It is a drain. It's a leaching pond, so that does drain down. So we're not talking feet of water. I could tell you exact elevation, but I believe no more than a foot would ever accumulate in there. It does build up after a storm event and leaches down to slowly release into the wetland. It filters the water, right? That's the intent. All of the development water ends up there. This water follows its natural path in and around. There is a drainage easement, as one of you spoke to. It is here. You can see it here. The drains out and around the city's fill. All of this water has to come in and go through our retention pond out to the wetland and be released on its normal path. That's the overview of the site. You have 7 lots. Just these are single family homes, just to make sure that's totally clear. These aren't condominiums. I can speak to some deeper points, but if you want to pass it around, look at all.
Before any fill was placed here, people was
Yeah.
contacted, we had them inspect it and approve.
We'll address that right now, yeah.
At the beginning of when.
Yeah, so we hire a consultant. The process is with you go hire a consultant, Kim and Gregor comes out and they stake all the wetlands. The only wetland, so you have continuous wetland here, you can't touch that. That's no go, right? There was an isolated wetland right here, but that's non-regulated wetland because it's not connected to the other wetlands. So that was filled, that was mitigated back in 2017, I believe, 2018, somewhere in that period. So everything else is no-go zone. We can't touch it anyway. So, but that process was done quite some time ago now.
I ask questions at this point of, how's the water from the 4 lots gonna get down there to drain if you build up the road?
I have that point. If I'm gonna go point by point a second, if I can. Drainage sleds, that's my first one. That was your first question. So those lots are reverse draining. They actually drain from the south to the north. So the properties to the south, no water is gonna get trapped there. There's ditches that take it along the houses to the north side of it. It's backwards of what most developments are, what most houses are. You're used to maybe a walkout. A lot of drainage goes out to the back. These are reverse. They drain from the back to the front because I can't trap water back there because I would flood people's backyards, So that's number one.
Will our water
Yes.
side be able to go somewhere?
Yeah, the intent is I can't stop water where it used to flow. Yep. Yes.
And you mentioned ditches.
Yes, there's ditches between at the lot lines. There's actually open
Are they
open
open?
ditches. They're open.
There is a culvert underneath the road.
Are they fenced?
No, that's a ditch. They're not meant. They're meant to collect and.
We don't know where it's at.
So.
Where should you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Where the retention pond is, if
Yes.
there are lot 1 there.
Yes.
storm in mid-July and 7 inches of rain overnight. Does that pond have like a berm around it at all?
So it has an overflow apparatus that conveys it to the north where it's supposed to go. So you're designed to.
I'm concerned obviously
Yeah,
about
so
my
it's
backyard,
yeah.
my slider out the back
Right.
door.
So-
my basement, et cetera.
I don't have the city, and I don't think he says it in here. So the city's ordinance has a stormwater ordinance, so we have to design that too. And I don't know in this case if it's a 50-year event, 100-year event, but it's all designed to take the water to that point. Once it hits that event, if we have a 75-year event and it's designed to a 50, it goes over the overflow and continues on in this case, wetland. So it doesn't adversely affect somebody's property.
It doesn't go to the west.
So it goes on. Unless you already have,
Hopefully, yeah.
if you already have a drainage problem, it's not gonna help. I'm not helping anybody's drainage problem. If
No,
it
no,
exists now, it's gonna continue to exist. But yeah, that's the intent. So it's designed, the site's designed to the stormwater ordinance. Maintenance of vacant lots. That's the one I don't have a direct question for. So this is set up. This goes into an association, and we have a master deed, everything for that association, which is made up of the holders of that lot. We have to do that per the site condo ordinance. So all the lots, maintenance of homes is all dictated by that master deed. So there is an association. As far as the maintenance of vacant lots, I would have to read directly to that. I can't answer that at the top of my head. As far as timeline, as far as building homes is my guess, is there is no timeline to build the homes themselves. They would be vacant lots, which would be no different than it's been since the property's inception, was be vacant. So, but they'd be vacant until people purchase them and build a home on them. But they would be finished. We do have to seed them. So we have soil erosion standards that we have to uphold to, so they would be seeded. And I would have to look in the bylaws of that if there's maintenance required, and there could be. Street lighting was something. There are no proposed additional street lights at this time on this portion of it. So no additional street lights. The pond, I think we hit on where it drains to, the settling pond. The wetlands we talked about in 2017. Takuma's property. So we're gonna approve the road actually all the way to Ann. Part of it is that sanitary sewer, maybe why some past developers, why they're discouraged from doing something with it is because the sanitary is very shallow there. It's only 4 feet deep. So then part of it is we are raising the road to have proper cover per eagle on that sanitary sewer. It does, so that does come into play your guys' driveway. I think it shows it on there. It's not, we're stuck with working in the right of way of your driveway, but we won't, you should not have any adverse effects. You'll get a new approach and a new road. Should be the only effect that they're having there.
The street from Ann will go up.
It tips
as it
back,
heads
it's
east.
back to, yes.
Yeah, as it goes east, it's higher elevation.
No, lower. We're raising, putting a high point back in the road essentially to bring it back east.
That it's off the end of the road. I'm going
Correct.
uphill, going more uphill. or
You're
more
going
downhill?
uphill. Yeah.
That's, yeah.
Question.
Yes.
Jordan, between us, it says unplatted and it goes out to like this one. What, and our property goes kind of a little bit of a dip, so the water goes back. What happens to that water?
So that's what you're not seeing on the drainage plan. Unplatted, it's just, that's the way that was originally
Okay,
set up.
so this will go back in.
That's right.
Not along here.
No, that'll be blended in. here. So not a east.
How big are the lots? Just curious.
I couldn't even tell you off the top of my head the dimensions. They're on that.
Just curious. So,
Maybe also, we have a lot of content coming from Anne and coming down to our way from house, you know how it's kind of, you know, the water's going to go east.
So
I mean, we have a lot of ponding there. Right at that.
those are lessons.
Yeah. And so I wondered how this was done.
That's about it.
No.
Remember when the well broke there?
You got
rain.
So I think I'll explain. So the Ash Street extension, the Ash Street rebuild, let's call it, this little reconstruct section will behave drainage wise the same way that. But there's no changes per minor grade raise to about right in the proper cover off the tail end of that. As far as nothing's designed, no changed. That is gonna.
Everybody's everywhere, all the streets, you know.
Curb was added to the street with that project, and that falls and it comes to you.
Are you?
This will just have a small section of curb with section. There again, the existing section of Ash wouldn't get.
About,
No sidewalk extension. The additional paving of Ash from the end of the sanitary to the west is not something that was required or discussed as a requirement. We're in all honesty doing that because the road is in such terrible shape. So. Wonder what.
Nate, I have a question
Go ahead.
about.
Yeah.
You said that you would,
you're good.
you said that you were. This water was going to go east. Now that goes onto our property.
It
Right.
goes this water follow around the edge of the fill, let's call it, and go out, yes.
Oh,
There's
okay.
There's actually drainage, southside drainage easement. Part of this water, this extent.
And okay, so this is the property line.
That's
So you're saying it's gonna go like that?
needs to go like that.
Oh, okay, cause like when we looked into the assessment, the topography map said it was going this way. So I was just wondering, how would you naturally?
Well,
make
it
go
goes,
that way?
it goes to the wetland, which eventually goes to Cedar Creek, right? But-
Well, yeah, which is over here. Well, it's. back here.
Well, the drain commissioner says it goes to his drain.
Oh.
Is that the different one that Todd Polinsky had? Oh, it was redone.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of survey would have been done.
Oh.
See, it's really-
I have.
Yeah.
I have.
So we did specifically a wetland delineation. So we knew where wetland was and how it could possibly be impacted. One of the banks that owned it at a point in time, and I actually also done a phase 4 environmental study.
there won't be any.
Right.
So we'll just
So
have
no-
this little space that
So-
doesn't have.
So that is back to the condition.
Could the city consider her? Or if it were to help the residents there, that water go to a drain?
It would, the tricky part is you'd have to, it would involve, it involves storm sewer on top of it. So once you curve it, now you get storm sewer. Right now, this area existing. You have to add some storm, curb could be a possibility, yes. Yeah, yes. But right now it drains, a lot of it drains to the corner. There's an inlet right there. That's where the storm sewer from the previous project, that's where it stopped to collect that water.
Does the storm sewer end at the corner of Action?
It ends, it ends there. There's an inlet, across from the house. Yep.
Are the water, concerns with you?
Well, when you're like, whoops, and then everything's gotta go in a basin. Not. I don't, that'd be a question for the city's engineer. That'd be a question for Fishback.
Around the time that there's an approval.
Goal would be, for this would be this season, let's call it a paving season.
Quick question, these are going to be stick-built houses, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
To the buyer specifications, where you guys have spec houses. I know we saw some stuff a long time ago when we first had this project, but it's been probably a year, right? And I'm just curious what the house, because that was a question that was asked, and I'm curious myself. So stick built, great. We know that they're not going to be modular homes or anything like that, so that's great. But when they're built, I guess speaking to the quality, I mean, are we looking at a higher end condominium that would be built back there? I mean, I know there's single family houses and it's in a condominium style. I understand that part. I'm just trying to understand the quality level that you're going for. Is that more at the owners? Because the owner's going to pay for the building?
It's up to the owners. They have to stick within the bylaws of the, with the association, but beyond there, it's up to the, it's up to the individual owner.
So does the association have a minimum standard then for these buildings? Okay. Yeah.
And there's no standard from, we have nothing restricting someone buying multiple lots. We have nothing restricting someone from buying the whole thing. Never building a house there. As far as we're concerned, that's probably not good for the city, but there, in all seriousness, there's not. We have no restriction on that. There is, rentals was brought up. There is no rentals. There's restriction on rentals within the bylaws. I do know that. So.
Modular, is that in the bylaw?
The city's ordinance would prevent a modular or mobile unit there. It'd have to be a stick-built house.
There's rules within the city about buildings that, yeah.
There's an association that dictates bylaws, but then you refer to the city. So who ultimately?
So some things within our bylaws do simply refer to the city. Building code. That comes to mind. There's certain things within the bylaws that actually reference back to the cities, which are under the same restrictions that.
They're online. If you want to read them, they're really boring. So if you can't sleep at night, pull those up.
Sorry, there are specific things set out in the bylaws that stand alone, and some things, when it comes to building specifically, do refer back to the cities.
I believe they're right on their website. I think all of our zoning and everything that's on there. Yeah, I believe so. I know I was looking at them one time when we had a question on something, and I'm pretty sure it's where I found them. But it's been probably 2 years since I looked for them. So Huh? No. You're talking, this is city. If you're looking for like city ordinances, those are all available. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that'd be on them. Yeah. Yeah.
If you think of the city zoning ordinance as kind of your baseline level of restrictions on what can happen with any lot in the city, their bylaws that they're doing here is something that would be more restrictive than what the city is doing. So they wouldn't be able to put any rules in place that are less restrictive than what the city already has, but they can be more restrictive. So the city wouldn't allow for mobile homes, for example, but they might have in their bylaws a higher standard for the size of the house, what it's the building materials, the standards for how the property is maintained. Those can be more restrictive than what the city would ever do, and that's fine. And so when you read through the bylaws, you'll see things in there that aren't covered by the city, and that's because they're imposing a higher level of restriction than the city is.
No, because it has to be shaped the way it'll ultimately be shaped. And same restriction when they go to build a house, they box per se. So you correct. Yeah, and the engineer's calculations take into account new impervious area.
You mentioned no, there would be no lights on this public street.
And now there's no lighting proposed.
Proposed, Andy?
I don't think that the city has a requirement for them. If you could, I suppose, request one be added, but I don't think that you have to.
Not an ordinance to have that area lit.
And a lot of people go to visit that place.
Why is that? Why not?
I have a good question.
Is it an annoyance to have it brought that right? Have you brought it to the attention to city?
We've angled it down to the best of our ability. The better now that there's leaves on all the trees.
Why is it on?
It's, I'm sure it's required.
There's no reason for it. It's just our policy. Yeah, okay.
They have to run in there once in a while, I know at night, the folks, but if it's.
Security. I complain about it too, but.
I do have one question. Why doesn't the city put up the no trespassing signs at the city pump house? Because there's a lot of activity back there. And I would think with today's environment that there might be.
We'll have to cover that with Miss Darla
Oh, okay.
at another time. Right now, we're discussing the property here.
There was nothing required for sidewalks based on city ordinance.
So in my staff report that we provided to you, that's in your packets, we did actually comment on that. I kind of think that I would like to see sidewalks in this development at a minimum on the north side, because there are already along the north side of Ash Street, there's a pretty continuous sidewalk that connects Ash Street all the way into town. At a minimum, I kind of want to see the sidewalks at least on the north side of Ash. I certainly wouldn't be opposed to sidewalks also on the south side that would connect up to the one that runs up on the east side of Ann Street. So that could be looped all the way around and have a sidewalk there. And that was one of the things in my report that we noted that we felt like might be a good idea.
I can agree with that one as we've had discussions about making our city more walkable, especially in the master plan. Yeah, I'm for that.
I know on our new development, north of town, there's sidewalks on both sides of the streets. And that was a great thing. We really had to struggle with that in the beginning of that development.
Right. Currently have sidewalks though on that north side of Ash, so my thought is if, as long as we're connecting the existing sidewalk structure to it. Yeah, that's the one I think I'd like to see us add, just again, it goes with the discussion we've had about master plan, making it a more walkable city for people. I mean, that's why a lot of people love this city is because you can walk downtown, because we have a great downtown. Yep.
Well,
Right. Okay.
Questions?
I think I did. Anybody?
I will turn it over to Mr. Moore, and we will hear from you.
So, real quick, just process wise, so, the public hearing tonight is, part of the required process in the city's, site condominium or condominium subdivision ordinance. After the public hearing, you will make a recommendation to the city council either tonight or at a future meeting to either recommend that they approve or disapprove the project. To address one of the comments, so we did include in our report a proposed or draft motion to approve. To kind of cut to the chase, we do with a couple of minor things that need to be talked about, like sidewalks, for example. We do think that this project meets the requirements of the city's zoning ordinance and site condominium ordinance, so we do recommend approval, and that's why that we included that particular motion. But you certainly don't have to accept my recommendation. So that is not something that's been sort of pre-planned and decided beforehand. As far as the submittal goes, it is complete. The only comments that we have is that they do need to have a PS, a professional surveyor stamp the plans per the ordinance. The city engineer has reviewed the plans as well, and his recommendation was that he was comfortable with a positive recommendation to city council as well. As far as the wetland is concerned, I agree that I don't think a permit for Eagle would be needed for that smaller wetland that's on the north or on the south side of the proposed street there, because it's not very big. But you could include as a condition of approval, and it's already drafted in there, but you could require that they obtain all permits, or if you want to specifically ask them for a letter of, or something from Eagle, you could add that as well if that's a particular concern. Deed and bylaws were both included that we talked about. Those should be reviewed by the city attorney before final approval by the city council. I reviewed them. I'm not an attorney, but they looked pretty typical to me, and I didn't see anything in there that was overly alarming. And in my opinion, it all seemed pretty straightforward. We usually just look for, requirements that, compel compliance with the zoning ordinance. Beyond that, if they want to have additional restrictions or requirements about whatever aspect of the development they want, that's fine. It doesn't really matter to me. In some developments, you'll see they'll have rules in their bylaws about if you can keep your garage door open, or where you gotta store your trash can, or how many, if you can put your RV in your driveway, or if it's got to be in the garage, all this other stuff that the city doesn't regulate. Some of that is in the bylaws, and some of it's not. Again, that's not really for me to decide, but everything in there would be a higher level of regulation than the city currently does. So we did go through in our report the condominium review standards that are in section 18-209 C5. There are 7 of them. They're pretty straightforward. They basically are intended to ensure that any kind of condominium subdivision project is consistent and harmonious with the character of the surrounding property. So given that it's single family homes, it's not going to be inconsistent with what is currently surrounding it. It's not going to place demands on public services that are in excess of their capacity. So we're not overloading the sewer system or the water supply system, or we're not going to, send way too much stormwater into something that can't handle it. Traffic generation. So on average, a single family residence generates 10 vehicle trips per day. So it says 70 trips a day sounds like a lot for, 7 homes. It's not. It's going to be barely noticeable, honestly, but that's what the kind of typical development generates. And so that comes from, if you think about you know, one trip out of your house in the morning and back home at night is 2 trips, right? Your one trip to work is really 2 vehicle trips down that street. So then if you go to the store and if your spouse works, that's, you know, 2 more trips and 2 more trips. And so pretty quickly you get to 10 trips a day. So it's not, traffic wise, it's not going to be an issue.
House full of teenagers.
Whole teenagers, but that's temporary. Hopefully that and they'll be out of there pretty soon. But and that even that sort of takes that into account. Some houses are going to have 1 or 2 people living there. Some are going to have 6. It just depends on the size of the family. So again, you know, this does mention that they need to be designed to facilitate safe pedestrian and vehicular traffic. You know, in my opinion, again, the addition of sidewalks around this road, I think would help to meet that standard. It's not a hard standard that says thou shalt provide sidewalks, but again, my opinion on the matter is that they should be provided at a minimum on the north side, preferably all the way around. So we did recommend approval. There is a suggested motion attached with some conditions. Those conditions would include that they provide the city with copies of all of their permits. They construct the site in strict conformance with the approved plans. They meet all requirements of the city engineer and any others deemed necessary. The master deed and bylaws be accepted by the city attorney. They provide recorded copies of those documents as soon as practicable. So once they have this draft set of bylaws and a draft master deed, if this is approved, they would have to go to the county register of deeds and actually record them. And we would want the recorded copy because that's what's going to come up in the title work. And then the last suggested condition is that sidewalks meeting the city standards shall be installed around the entire perimeter of the proposed Ash Street extension. If there are questions from the planning commission, I'm happy to answer them. And so from there, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay. I think I do want to add something to this proposal, and that would be about lighting. Because that does kind of concern me that there's no lighting in there at night. And if we, as Matt said, if we want to make this a walkable city, there should be at least 1 to 3 lights. Possibly, Mr. Moore?
I don't know how many. So do we typically, I think the reason why there aren't street lights shown here is that I don't know that the street extension is long enough. And I would have to look it up. I don't know off the top of my head. With subdivision design requirements, we will often see a standard when you're building a new public street that says you have to have street lights every X number of feet. This is a pretty short extension, so I don't know that they would be required to do that many. But I just don't know what the standard is off the top of my head. So you could include a requirement that just says that streetlights, shall be required per city standards. That could be 0, that could be 3. I have no idea how many that's going to be. Way to address that as a condition if you wanted to add it.
Lighting lights along Ash? I know at the corner, right? There's the one where Ann and Ash come together. Yes. But I don't know if are there ones along the street? I don't know if I've ever looked when I've been walking the street.
In between the blocks?
Not even sure.
So you have one at the end?
We have one at Ash's end.
And, okay.
Linda and Beach come together. There's a light there. I'm assuming there's probably another one where Beach and Ann come together. I'm just on Google Street View and I see some occasionally, but there's not very many. No.
Types down the streets.
Yeah.
Some are up on the consumers' poles, others are on just a smaller.
I only see them where the current electrical poles are. Yeah, so there's electricity already there. That's where I'm seeing. But again, I'm on Google Street View site. Those aren't always up to date.
To calculate a little bit, this is a public road, it's public right. So streetlights went in, who would be responsible for maintaining that? For that, then there'd have to be an easement back up. Right away, if really on a private lot, it's a little more complicated than one that is a total private street, private entity. The existing lights there are more of a consumer's light, I would call it, the consumer's interest light. is what is currently in that lot. But there may be some whole style, modern life, so it.
Where,
it's a little complicated.
where Ash ends to your road beginning, well, there will be a power pole there, right?
All the power's underground.
You can take one on the well house.
We had to put it underground to get it to the well.
If airplanes landed.
What I was thinking was where Ash and the new subdivision come together, if there was one light there even. Just one light, to guide it into the subdivision.
I think you already have a light at where Ann and Ash come together. You'd already kind of have that.
We're consumers, because when it didn't work for like 10 years, and I had to call consumers like
Yes.
100 times to get them to come.
Incorrect. Okay. I guess if the city's not gonna have it, I don't think we should put.
Can we?
That we're not doing anywhere else in the city at this point. I guess the discussion I would like to have is more about the sidewalks. I don't know if we need to have the
No,
sidewalks.
the sidewalks is fine. But one question from Ms. Darla, can we have consumers put a light up? Oh, okay.
But if the light was out for 10 years.
Just thought I'd ask. Just thought I'd ask. No, I am with you, Matt. The sidewalks, that is just fine. And that's already in there.
I guess my question is, do we need to go all the way around the neighborhood or just on the north side? I guess the hard part is, knowing that that is a circular drive and you do have to have access back to the pump house back there. Like, where do you have now the sidewalk end, right? Does it have to go all the way around to the last house? Does it go all the way to, I'm just not sure because I don't think we have any plans of putting sidewalks in on the north side of Ash and having it on both sides of the street, correct?
South corner of Ash and Ann, that house that's being built there, I'm requiring them to put in a sidewalk.
Okay. Well, I guess that makes that easy.
Gap at 320.
It'd be the same situation you're gonna have on the south side of Ash. You'll have sidewalk, ditch, road. There's just gonna be a little gap there, is my understanding, looking at this, yeah. I mean, I've walked that a few times, so. So in this case.
70 feet.
Existing sidewalk was put in at the back side, the north side of the right of way, squeeze the property line. If sidewalk were to go in around this, that'd be the same thing. Yeah, I would want them to match the rest of where we're doing it and have them go all the way around then, knowing that that new house is gonna have that put in there. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Question I have with sidewalks. House goes in, because otherwise they get.
No. That is, I believe that is fine, that when the houses go in, because, yeah, we would not, no. I would not look at you to put a sidewalk in and then run, a big hoe right across it and tear it up. Cause there goes all that money.
Yeah, so you could, once the street's done, if the sidewalks are not in yet, you could require a guarantee, like a bond or, letter of credit or something, or cash to make sure that does get done. Cause what we don't want to do, there's, two things. So once the lots are sold and everything is signed off on, if those lots don't develop, if no one builds on them for 7 years, I don't want to have a gap there for that long. So you could consider including some sort of date by which somebody needs to do something. But whenever you allow for the deferral of construction for something like that, there should be a financial guarantee provided to ensure that it gets done. And that's something that we can work out.
Okay.
Is this something we need to put into this proposal? Or is that something that can be worked out? I feel like it really needs to be in here if we have the sidewalks in there, like they need to be built within X amount of time, correct? Would probably be the right way to do. Would that thoughts?
So you would say like they would be installed upon construction of the houses, but all of them must be in no later than June 1st, 2027, 8, whatever, I don't know, something like that. So there's at some point
incentive for them to actually sell the lots.
Would it be appropriate to put it in from the time of the building of the first house that they must be completed within a 2-year time frame of the first house being built, or does it need to have a specific date?
Be done for each lot before the C of O is issued for that specific house. Is how I would want it. So the house goes up for a certificate of occupancy is issued. That sidewalk's got to be complete because when C of O is the house is move-in ready. So at that point, sidewalk's got to be there. It's got to be graded, seeded, all that stuff.
Point that a portion of the cul-de-sac is actually the city's property.
Right.
Remember the light on, must have moved in. Well, of course, that's the city knows that they're obligated to cover that. The part that we're really looking at is making sure that,
Right.
yeah, we're not making you pay for, public property. Yeah.
All of Asheville have approved that far.
I don't know if we're the right people to answer that question.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You may have to contact the city this week to discuss that. I'm not sure about that.
How long does it take to get the master deed and bylaws reviewed and accepted by the city attorney? Recorded copies of these documents should be provided to the city as soon as practical. How long does that take?
He's already reviewed them. He's already made some changes, and I think we're all good there. The recording process is not something that takes very long. So, again, that's once it's all done and they're ready to go, that'll be like the last thing that they need to do, and it's not something that takes that much time. Think you that long?
No.
I don't know.
No.
Okay, planning commission, do you have any more questions?
I'm just looking at the motion. I guess the one, I just want to make sure that when we look at this, we do approve this with number 5. It's just making sure that we get that sidewalk verbiage correct in here. I mean, is it appropriate to say sidewalks meeting the city standards should be installed around the entire perimeter of the proposed Ash Street extension to be completed by, and put a date at the end? Is that an appropriate way to word that?
Sentence that says the sidewalk shall be completed at the time of home construction, but all sidewalks shall be installed no later than.
That fast.
What's that?
Right, that
I think that's
fast.
the discussion we need to have is when do we want those sidewalks completed? By
Well,
what date?
as Bishop
Right.
Moore said, completed on, did you say CO? Certificate of occupancy. Right.
Yeah, the concern is gaps, right? You get a house here,
That's the
no house, a house here,
But then
no
what
house.
concerns me is if there's no house, they put up a sidewalk, then the money, that sidewalk could get ruined. And we don't want to, I don't want to.
But we also want to encourage some cohesion within the city and not leave that looking haphazard, I think is the concern there. So I'd rather go with the cohesion thing. I mean, nothing against the Sand Lake guys, but I think they would then incentivize them to get those spots sold and built in a timely fashion, right? That way, some of the concerns I think that some of the public have, and that this is going to be 10, 15 years, would then be alleviated because they would be encouraged to get those houses done. And I'm sure they don't want to sit on vacant lots for 10 years either. I mean, that's money that's not being made. I completely understand the business side.
Number of houses in there, because that's when gaps start causing problems.
Yeah.
So once a percentage of the time, sidewalks are not. That would, say, nobody buys a lot, nothing happens.
Yep.
Mowed and maintained, so. Point here, good point, is you don't want gap sidewalk.
Yeah, yeah. Because it defeats the purpose of having the sidewalk, yeah, yeah. But I also don't want you guys, bring heavy construction in there and destroying it. I understand your point. But we also need to make sure there's cohesion in that back area.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering why we didn't have a printout in our agenda. all these folks to see. That's my concern.
What printout?
That's standard procedure, that's policy. I
Yeah,
don't,
if you said
we
the
wouldn't
pack.
typically send.
It's usually on our agenda or packet.
Site plans that we usually look at beforehand. Yeah. I mean, if you're concerned, maybe we delay this so that our next packet has this. I know you guys don't want to hear delay, but I do want to make sure we're doing our due diligence on this.
100% agree with you.
And this might be something where we say, hey, we'd like to see site plans. I think it might be helpful too, is if you guys have some ideas of what the houses might look like, it might help people have a better idea too. Not that we're gonna hold you to them, but if you say, hey, here's the proposed look that we're going for. I understand that, but we're also here. Yeah, I understand you guys have a business side to it, and I completely understand that. But we also have a due diligence to the public to make sure that we're doing this right by them. Exactly, because we don't want to upset the public.
Neighbors.
Yes, the neighbors. But we also understand that there's a shortage of houses in this town too, and we definitely have a need there. Yeah.
So if we
Honestly-
table this till next month and then turn it to council with full approval, you guys have had the chance to study this and understand it.
So let me ask a question here with this. We've not seen this. I didn't get up to see it because usually we have it in our. Is this what you guys are proposing here? Is this something that this is the final version? It's been approved, or what's the story with this? Because I don't know anything about it.
It's only, this side, this is our submitted plan.
Okay.
We're based off from. The only tweak would be.
The addition of the sidewalks. Would you bring that up to us? Because I know John and I have not seen it. I'm okay looking at this, having a conversation and saying, this is good. I don't know if I necessarily have it in the packet. Because again, I understand you guys have seasoned, but we also have a due diligence here.
Yes.
Would you mind, Nate, correct? Would you mind coming up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. I just want to understand if you can show me, so this is the drainage pond, right? That's
Yeah.
gonna be back here.
Detention bond.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so are there underground drainage that goes to that, or is this just runoff that's feeding into there?
So it's ditched to here, transferred to west.
So that goes under the road there.
What's gonna tweak things a little bit,
Yeah.
with the additional sidewalk, it's gonna change this drainage a little here.
Okay.
I have the original. Structure, I was thinking about this as we were sitting there, so, I mean, I have to go here. I just.
Make sure you get cleaned out, yeah.
Yep, so this essentially go here and. Off.
And this is just what, a culvert that goes underneath there? Is that what that is?
Yep, this is a pipe, another drainage easement in this lot
Yep.
that takes into. The well house.
Okay.
Yep, the well house.
It extends further on the street. What
Looking,
concerns do you have, so that we can have this discussion?
my concerns is the people that live there have not had an opportunity to check. I'm fine with it.
I think I'm fine with that, and I mean, we're gonna be all of that. They're gonna be what? They're gonna be all in there. Just here, knowing that it's flowing the right direction. You only needed one retention pond?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, yep.
All right. Because this wetland goes back feeds into Cedar Creek, right? Yeah.
Yeah, this is all.
Because that's wetlands, feeds into Cedar Creek, so you got an natural
Okay.
drainage once it gets over here. It's just a matter of getting from here
Yeah,
to there. And to be honest, this whole area is wet. I mean, I lived at 251, and my backyard was always moist in the spring. I mean,
Yeah. A lot of this is helps this one. I mean, there's wet areas all over.
Oh, yeah.
Wet areas all over. Cedar Spring, like, even that, yeah, There's no, I can speak to the guys, there's no lead.
Get all the fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
261 and
was wetland,
251,
or
yeah.
Is this still wetland? Y'all gotta build it up or y'all already have? Okay,
Sorry.
you've already built that up. Okay, see, that's all I. Okay.
And I guess if I was thinking I need to see what it looks like. I really don't care. I mean, as long as I'm following city standards, I think you guys are going for a higher level of housing here anyways.
That's our.
Yeah.
We're not sourcing somebody buying for, there's the only lot we have anybody speaking at all about is this lot, and that's because her elderly.
Gotcha.
If they buy it,
Have to build or they within a certain time frame?
I'd have to look at the bylaws. Yeah. I don't remember there are restrictions that go in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing with initially, we're the head of association, let's call it, we as the developers are. And once it passes the threshold, I think it's 60%, then the people actually take over the association. And then they're building it themselves.
Alright. I'm unfamiliar with this, with the addition of the sidewalks in here.
Yeah, that's
The
fine.
proposal that was
That's
put
fine.
out, so.
We'll just make it walk. That's fine.
Rose, you seem to not be.
I know, but.
He's got it.
Okay.
Some specialized valleys. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
One, yeah. It's like. Not a lot of.
Yeah, so the only tweak to this, so we'll go ahead. We'd show the walk on the.
Yep, and
Otherwise, here's.
yeah, so I think our motion probably have a conditional in there regarding that,
Yes.
the wording that goes with the sidewalks. Yeah.
Turned down projects, so just, I turned down two of them yesterday.
Yeah.
I do not have time to do them. I don't have people to play with. More work to give them.
Good chat.
My life.
Posted here in City Hall for people to, like.
Yeah, that's true.
Come and eyeball it.
All right, we are going to look at this motion. Anybody want to try this?
I'll take a stab at this. The one thing, Mr. Moore, I'd like your help with is number 5, because I know we captured some verbiage down there with the sidewalk. Correct? So this is a motion to recommend to the city council approval of the proposed site condominium subdivision located at 333 East Ash Street. Last revised. So I would say, I would like to propose the motion as presented with the additions of, and would you read the number 5 when we talked about the sidewalks?
Yeah, so.
And I guess, so what I have so far is that sidewalks meeting the city standards shall be installed around the entire perimeter of the proposed Ash Street extension. Sidewalks shall be completed prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, but all sidewalks shall be completed within, and then we haven't figured that out yet. So we could say within 2 years following completion of the 3rd unit, or
I'm thinking 2 years within the completion of the first unit. That way there's a time frame that needs to be done. Yep. Yeah. Because then that way it's not haphazard. It's done. And we know that it'll be completed within 2 years. Yeah.
Could council amend it, or we should wait for discussion?
So I'll make that motion with the additions about the sidewalk and that they must be completed within the building of the first house within 2 years.
We make the motion. I got one more question. This isn't stamped, is it? Are they
in the motion there?
by a PE, but not a PS. And I mean, this is quite fussy, but the ordinance requires a PS stamp it, so
And the ordinance will
have them at Rosine, so.
Because it doesn't follow the ordinance, but they'll have it done.
Right, I'm just making sure. I mean, obviously, the civil
So-
engineers looked at this and.
They have to meet all requirements of the city engineer and any others deemed necessary by the city.
Oh,
right
yep.
there.
Okay,
Mhm.
number 4.
says that the site plan shall be stamped by a PS licensed in Michigan.
Did that stand by number 3 when we said all requirements of the city engineer?
He would do it separately because he didn't address that in his report, I don't think.
Does that need to be added to number 3 or should it be added as a number 6?
6.
Right, so thank you, by the way. With the addition of number 5, adding the sidewalk must be completed within 2 years of the completion of the first unit. Number 6 would be that it requires a PS stamp, sealed stamp on there per standard 18.21 parentheses A, parentheses 2, before this can be finally approved. Is that an accurate way to say number 6? Yep. Thank you. I will second that motion, and then I will do a roll call for. Yes. All right. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Council. So that's where it will end up, and they'll come back for that. By then, there will be more information for everybody. They did a wonderful representation tonight, I thought. And hopefully all the questions will be answered, and on from there, I think we have a good start. Important start. And it's not over till council drops a hammer on it, and they'll have a lot of questions too. And that's my part of this discussion.
And for clarification, the public will not receive a notice for the council meeting like they did for this meeting. So make sure that you just know when the meeting is. I don't know what the date is, but you're not going to get a thing in the mail like you did for this one, just so you're aware.
Be next week, Thursday. Okay.
I am going to call a roll call for this motion. There's the word. Mr. Hoag? Aye. Mr. Marvel? Yes. Ms. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Nixon says yes. Okay. Anything else you need, Miss? Here. All right. So we will pass that along for scrutinization.
You guys are reconvening next week, Thursday?
No. City Council.
Mm-hmm. We're just the first step.
Okay, is that, city council, is that meeting open to the public?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
I haven't been to one in a while.
I missed you.
Next on the agenda. Master plan update. Going to Mr. Moore again.
So, included in your packet, starting on page 17 and continuing down to page 126 or so, is the complete modified draft of the master plan. So this document was provided to you at the last meeting. There was some funny technical things that were going on that made a bunch of the characters not work. I think we've resolved that, I hope. Had also received a bunch of comments from Darla and from Rebecca and from others at the city, just suggestions on language corrections, make sure that our facts are right, swapped out a bunch of pictures, made some other adjustments throughout the document. Most of the future land use map, the goals and objectives, things like that were pretty much left alone. We didn't make any big changes there. So a lot of the things that we ended up editing were just kind of clean up stuff, housekeeping, clarification. And we've made a few additional minor changes, like colors on the graphs and stuff, just so it's easier to read and things that we've been picking at. So where we are at this point is that with this draft complete, you can, of course, request additional edits to it. You can, at this point, you could adopt a motion to recommend that the city council distribute the master plan to the notice group, which would start the adoption process that will last for a while. That would get this plan off of your desk, get it in front of city council for their review. The statute requires that the master plan be distributed to all of the surrounding jurisdictions. So the county will get it, the surrounding townships will get it. They have to be given 63 days to respond and provide comment. So a couple, 3 months after that, this would come back to you for a public hearing, final adjustments, followed by a final recommendation to actually approve it. So are there any further questions on the master plan or edits or comments, big or small? I'll turn it back over to you to address any of those and talk about next steps.
It's way better.
Oh, yeah. No, I thought it looked much better because I could actually understand it. There wasn't just a random A and then, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anybody have any discussion on this? Or can we just send it to the council?
I recommend we send it to the council. I'm just so glad to see Timmy Brown's memorial in there.
Yeah. And Rose, I hope you noticed that on page, let me find it now. Your picture I put on page 65 of your packet.
I'm so happy to see that.
Great. So did
And all the pictures look like Cedar Springs too.
you get that, Miss Carrie? Okay. All right. So we have had, all right, we have had a motion.
Got a lot of Dean work in here too, by the way.
Okay,
Better look at it.
With this motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, we will send it to the city council. All right, open discussion for issues not on the agenda. We have the calendar, which I don't think has changed. And then upcoming projects. Is that you, Miss Darla?
I'll just go over everything under city manager.
Okay. So we will move on to staff comments and we will go right to city manager again.
We've decided to have a little groundbreaking ceremony for the apartment complex. June 12th, 2025 at 5 p.m. So this is next Thursday night. City council's at 7. This is at 5. If you'd like to join us, feel free. Just a small ceremony. I think it's a fantastic project. We waited a long time for it to happen and like to celebrate those kind of things.
Be outside. Okay.
Shovels included.
Shovels, hard hats. Yep. The Heart of Cedar Springs project, we've hired FCC contracting to build the restroom pavilion and install the playground. We have our pre-construction meeting June 17th. The contract says they can start August 1st. They've already asked if they could start before that. I don't have a problem with that. However, we have concerts at the amphitheater through July 23rd. So we'll see. But excited for that project to start as well. Like I just mentioned, concerts at the amphitheater Wednesday nights again this year, 7 to 9. There's 3 in June, 3 in July. We're going to take the week of the 4th off. The current project on Ash Street, the 2 blocks, that should be wrapped up in the next few weeks. It's going very well. And I just wanted to mention, I don't know if I've mentioned in the past, the Right Place puts on every year, it's called Developer Day. Rebecca and I participated last year. We went on a bus tour and actually brought developers to the city and showed them a couple different sites and stuff. That's going to happen again the end of June. So we plan to participate. There's one afternoon session downtown that will be there available, anybody that wants to come see us. And then I think it's the 26th, they'll have the bus tour again. So I definitely want to show West Street again. Maybe we'll stop at City Hall so people know this building will be available for sale, hopefully by the end of the year. So
All right.
City Park.
Planning commission members, anything?
I want to thank our friends and neighbors that came out tonight to express their concerns. It's always great when people come out to talk about those. And guys, thank you for listening and being giving thoughtful responses too. Very appreciated. And I would say if you are this excited and concerned about your neighborhood, we have an opening here. So I'm sure Darla would love to take your CV and so she can take a look at it. We're always looking for good quality people that care about their community.
Yes. All right, anybody else? Report of the city council representative, that is you.
We haven't met.
Okay.
It's been a month.
There you go.
Guess we got a lot to talk about at the next meeting.
All right.
Do.
Report of the planning consultant, Mr. Moore.
Further, appreciate your work on the master plan very much and excited to keep that moving.
All right, with nothing else, I will adjourn this meeting at 8:41. Whew. Well, it was, oh, that's yours.
Ramsey back.
But-
Those pot ones all the time. Those were like 2.5 hour meetings. We used to had all those weed proposals. It was like my first 2 months on the council. I was like, these things haven't ended.
I wasn't too sure when I let, Mr. Nate get up there and then everybody